Peter, how could you decide to move your parents in without consulting me first? I challenged, my voice a mix of astonishment and anger. Peter, my husband of 5 years, barely glanced up from his laptop, a smirk playing on his lips that only deepened my irritation. Abigail, stop overreacting. It's just for a short time. Besides, you don't really have a say in this, he responded dismissively, his words cutting deeper than I expected. This house, our home, wasn't just any place. It had been bequeathed to me by my grandparents, a picturesque two-story in a serene suburb where I had envisioned raising our son, Vincent, away from the unsettling influence of Peter's family. Do you remember that this house is in my name? I shot back, my hands clenched at my sides as his smirk faltered for the briefest moment. Just then, Vincent, our 3-year-old, toddled into the room, oblivious to the tension. I forced a smile for him, scooping him up and kissing his forehead, finding solace in his innocence. I'm not comfortable with this arrangement, Peter. Your parents have always disregarded me and invaded our personal space. Why bring them into our lives now? I said, my voice firm yet controlled. Peter shrugged, his indifference fueling my frustration. They're my family, Abigail. It's something you just wouldn't understand, he replied coldly. The word family echoed in my mind, mocking me. My own family, who had run the cozy coffee shop downtown, had always been my sanctuary, the warmth of their love a stark contrast to Peter's domineering, invasive parents. As our argument heated up, the doorbell rang, slicing through the tension. I peeked through the peephole, and my heart sank. Peter's parents stood on the doorstep, suitcases in hand, ready to encroach even further into our lives. Fine, Peter. Let them in. But this isn't over, I said sharply, handing Vincent to him before reluctantly swinging the door open. Abigail, darling, Peter's mother exclaimed as she breezed past me, barely acknowledging my presence. His father, always stern and distant since our wedding, followed her inside. As they settled into the living room, my living room, what had once been a place of refuge now felt invaded. Watching them unpack, something inside me shifted. I was tired of being the accommodating daughter-in-law, always bending to their demands. This intrusion was just the beginning, but I knew then that I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. I retreated to the kitchen, my resolve hardening. This was my home, my sanctuary, and I was determined to defend it. In the days that followed, life became a blur of overbearing changes. Peter's mother, Denise, had a way of making her presence suffocatingly known. She rearranged my kitchen, criticized my parenting, and acted as though she owned the place. One morning, as I prepared breakfast for Vincent, she peered over my shoulder and frowned. Vincent shouldn't be eating that, Abigail. It's not healthy, she said, her tone thick with disapproval. I bit back a sharp retort, the sting of her judgment simmering beneath my skin. He's fine, Denise. It's just muesli, I responded, keeping my voice even. She sighed dramatically, shaking her head. In our house, we believe in a proper diet. You really should learn. Her words were like persistent jabs, each one eroding my patience. Peter, as usual, was of no help, glued to his laptop, oblivious to the tension rising with every interaction. One evening, as I tucked Vincent into bed, Denise barged into his room without knocking. He's still not sleeping through the night? You must be doing something wrong, she accused, her words hitting me like a slap. Doubt flickered in the back of my mind, threatening to creep in. But I knew I had to reclaim control. Not just for my peace of mind, but for Vincent's sake. The battle lines were being drawn, and I was ready to stand my ground. I'm doing everything I can, I snapped, the frustration I'd been bottling up finally spilling out. Denise's eyes narrowed, and she tilted her head, her voice dripping with condescension. Clearly, your everything isn't enough. Maybe things would improve if you had a real job and some structure. The anger inside me boiled over. This is my house, Denise. I'd appreciate it if you remembered that you're just a guest here. I kept my voice steady, though it took everything I had. She let out a cold, dismissive laugh, her tone chilling me to the bone. Oh dear, Peter never told me you were this delusional. This is his house too, and as his mother, I have every right to be here. The next day, the tension reached a breaking point. I walked into Vincent's room to find Denise rummaging through his drawers, her hands buried in his things, rearranging them without a second thought. That was it. The line had been crossed, and I wasn't about to back down. What do you think you're doing? I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. Denise didn't even bother to turn around. I'm just organizing. This room is a complete mess, she said, her tone dripping with condescension. That was the last straw. I want you out of my house. Now, I exclaimed, my voice a mix of fury and desperation. Denise finally turned to face me, her expression one of mocking surprise. Your house? Oh, sweetie, you're just the wife. This is Peter's house too, and he wants us here. I stormed out of the room, my mind swirling with a storm of emotions. Peter's betrayal, Denise's intrusion, and the utter disregard for my feelings. It was all too much. I was tired of being pushed around, tired of my home being invaded by people who didn't respect me. That night, as I lay in bed, the frustration churned into something new, resolve. Ideas began to form, and a plan took shape. I wasn't just going to reclaim my space. I was going to assert my standing in this household. If things were going to change, it had to start with me. The next morning would mark the beginning of a new chapter, one where I set the terms for how we lived in my house. Peter and his parents had crossed too many lines, and I realized I could no longer be passive in my own home. Their constant intrusion was not only disrupting my peace but also affecting my son's future. As the tension simmered, I steeled myself for the inevitable conflict. The real battle for control of my home was just beginning. A few days later, during a dinner already fraught with tension, Peter casually dropped a bombshell that shattered any pretense of normalcy. My parents need to stay with us longer. Their house is undergoing renovations, he stated, as if it were a minor detail that shouldn't concern me. My anger flared instantly. Longer? Peter, we never even discussed them staying here in the first place, I exclaimed, struggling to keep my voice level. He shrugged, avoiding eye contact as though the gravity of the situation didn't matter. It's just for a few more weeks. What's the problem? The problem? My voice cracked with frustration. Your mother treats me like an outsider in my own home. I snapped, unable to contain the boiling resentment any longer. From across the room, Denise chimed in, her voice thick with condescension. Abigail, you're overreacting. We're family. You should be more understanding. She dismissed my feelings with a casual wave of her hand. That night, as I lay in bed, sleep eluded me. Denise and Peter's words echoed in my mind, each one hardening my resolve. I was done playing the accommodating wife. Tomorrow, things would change, and it would be my terms they lived by. I refused to be marginalized in my own home any longer. It was clear that taking a stand was no longer an option. It was a necessity. The next morning, fueled by a restless night of thoughts, I reached out to my brother Mason, who had always been my rock. They're taking over my life, Mason. I can't handle it anymore, I confessed, the strain evident in my voice. Mason's response was immediate and supportive. Abigail, you have to stand up for yourself. Don't let them push you around. It's your house, your rules, he encouraged firmly. His words instilled the courage I needed to confront the situation head-on. I began to gather evidence of Denise's domineering behavior, photos of my rearranged kitchen, notes on disrupted routines, and recordings of her disparaging comments. Armed with this evidence, I waited for the right moment to confront them. That moment arrived one afternoon when both Denise and Peter were in the living room, seemingly relaxed. I entered the room with determined strides and announced, "We need to talk, now." As they turned to face me, surprise flickered in their eyes, clearly unaccustomed to my assertiveness. I laid out my case clearly and unapologetically, presenting the evidence of Denise's intrusive behavior and expressing how disrespected I felt in my own home. The room filled with tension, but this time I didn't shrink from it. I stood my ground, ready to reclaim the respect and autonomy I deserved. This was more than just a confrontation. It was a declaration of my independence within my life and home. My voice was firm, cutting through the tension as I faced Peter, who looked startled by my tone. "What's going on, Abigail?" he asked, a hint of unease in his voice. "It's about your parents, Peter, their constant interference and lack of respect for my boundaries. It stops today," I declared, clutching my list of grievances tightly. Denise scoffed from her chair, dismissing me with a wave of her hand. "This is ridiculous. We're just trying to be helpful." "Helpful," I shot back, the frustration boiling over. "Helpful by constantly undermining me, by making me feel invisible in my own home." I shot back, my frustration reaching its peak. Peter shifted uncomfortably. "Abigail, they're my parents. We can't just ask them to leave." "No, Peter," I countered sharply, my resolve unwavering. "They're guests in my home, and they've overstayed their welcome. Either they go, or I will, taking Vincent with me." The room fell silent, my ultimatum hanging heavily in the air. I could see the wheels turning in Peter's head, But it was Denise who broke the silence. "You wouldn't dare," she hissed, her facade beginning to crack. "Try me. I won't regret standing up for myself," I retorted, filled with newfound determination. That night, Peter's parents packed their bags. As they left, Denise shot me a venomous look. "You'll regret this, Abigail," she warned. But as the door closed behind them, a profound sense of relief washed over me. It was the first step toward regaining control of my life, and I was ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. The days following Denise and her husband's departure were oddly quiet. Peter's demeanor turned cold and distant, and our interactions became minimal and strained. Yet I found solace in the peace of my own home and the joyful laughter of our son Vincent. One evening, as Vincent played with his toys, Peter broke the silence with an unexpected announcement. "I have to go on a business trip." The news shocked me, but it also brought a moment of clarity. It was time for me to fully embrace the peace and independence I had fought so hard to achieve. "I'll be gone for a few weeks," Peter announced, his tone indifferent, as if our faltering relationship was merely a minor inconvenience compared to his work obligations. "Fine," I replied, steeling myself for the changes ahead. I replied sharply, a surge of relief washing over me at the prospect of his absence. As soon as he left, the atmosphere in our home shifted, becoming lighter, almost liberating. I began to undo the changes Denise had imposed, each correction feeling like a small victory in reclaiming my space. However, the real turning point came unexpectedly when I stumbled upon a series of emails on Peter's laptop, left carelessly open. The emails laid bare an affair, a betrayal that cut deeper than any of Denise's pointed remarks. A storm of anger, hurt, and betrayal engulfed me as the reality of his deception sank in. It was clear that Peter needed to face the consequences of his actions. With a clear mind and firm resolve, I started to plan my next steps meticulously. The first order of business was to secure my financial and legal standing. I contacted a lawyer, laid out my situation, and initiated divorce proceedings. Then I turned my attention to the house, a legacy from my grandparents and a symbol of my independence. "I want to sell the house quickly and quietly," I told the real estate agent, my voice steady. Her surprise was evident, but she sensed the urgency and gravity of my decision. "Are you sure about this, Abigail? Selling the house is a big step," she cautioned. "I've never been more certain," I assured her, my voice laced with a mix of betrayal and newfound determination. The house went on the market, and to my relief, offers came in swiftly. The thought of Peter returning to find he had lost control over this aspect of my life brought a bittersweet satisfaction. Throughout this tumultuous period, I leaned heavily on my family for support. Though shocked by Peter's actions, my parents stood firmly by my side, providing the emotional backbone I desperately needed. I needed their support as I navigated this challenging chapter. Their presence was a constant reminder of what true family support should look like. "We're here for you, no matter what," my father reassured me, his eyes tender as he watched Vincent play, blissfully unaware of the storm swirling around us. I quietly vowed to protect his happiness at all costs. Peter's return was inevitable, but I had changed profoundly in his absence. Armed with the truth and a concrete plan, I was ready to confront him and reclaim my autonomy. When the day finally came, the air was thick with tension, a tension I had mentally rehearsed many times, imagining every possible reaction. Yet my heart still raced as I heard his key turn in the lock. "Abigail, I'm back," Peter announced, his voice echoing through the now strange space of our home. I emerged from the kitchen, my posture resolute. "Welcome home, Peter. We need to talk," I said firmly. He looked around, his brow furrowing as he noticed the changes. "What's going on? The house looks different." I stood my ground, my voice unwavering. "I sold the house, Peter. It's no longer ours." Shock spread across his face. "You did what? You can't just sell our house without discussing it with me." "It was my house to begin with, Peter, and after what I've discovered, you don't have a say in this anymore," I declared, my voice tinged with controlled anger. He scoffed, trying to assert his control. "What are you talking about? What affair?" "I know everything, Peter," I stated firmly, watching his confident demeanor begin to crack. His feeble attempt to deny the allegations was short-lived. "Abigail, it's not what you think," he tried to explain. "I think it's exactly as it appears. You've betrayed me, betrayed our family," I countered, the pain evident in my voice. Peter's face shifted from shock to anger. "You're overreacting. We can fix this." There's no we anymore, Peter. I filed for divorce. I filed for divorce, I declared, extending the papers to him. The ensuing conversation devolved into a chaotic blur of accusations and denials, but I remained steadfast. The man I had married was gone, replaced by someone consumed by selfish desires. As he stormed out, vowing to fight the divorce, I felt a complex mix of relief and determination. No matter what challenges lay ahead, I was prepared to face them for the sake of my future and Vincent's well-being. With a sense of freedom tinged with apprehension, I stepped into my new life, fully aware that the struggle was far from over. In the weeks that followed, our situation unfolded publicly, not only exposing Peter but also dragging his once dominating parents into the fray. Their attempts to reconcile were met with my resolute silence. I had severed ties, focusing all my energy on Vincent and finalizing our divorce. The day of the court hearing arrived, and Peter looked visibly defeated, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. When the judge granted me the divorce along with custody of Vincent, I felt a profound sense of justice being served. After the hearing, Peter's attempts at reconciliation were futile. "You made your choice, Peter. Now you have to live with it," I told him firmly, turning away for the last time. The fallout from our divorce and Peter's affair was swift and severe, tarnishing his reputation and straining his relationships. His once imposing parents now faced social ostracism, a stark reversal of their previous status. As Vincent and I walked out of the courthouse, hand in hand, it felt not just like an ending but a new beginning, a chance to rebuild our lives on a foundation of honesty and freedom from deceit. The future was uncertain, yet it was wholly ours to shape. Life after the divorce was like stepping out of a long, dark tunnel into the sunlight. I had regained control, not just over the now-sold house, but over my life. Vincent, blissfully unaware of the adult complexities, thrived in the stability and love I provided. My days were busy but fulfilling as I dedicated myself to rebuilding our lives and managing the coffee shop, which had become my sanctuary. However, the shadow of Peter and his parents occasionally cast a pall over my newfound peace. One evening, as I was closing up the shop, Peter appeared at the door, looking disheveled and desperate, a stark contrast to the composed man I once knew. "Abigail, please, I need to talk to you," he pleaded, his eyes searching mine for any remaining spark of compassion. I paused, conflicted by the mix of feelings his sudden appearance evoked. "What is it, Peter?" I inquired cautiously. "It's about the alimony and child support," he admitted, his voice filled with shame. "I'm unable to pay it. I've lost my job due to the scandal." Peter's words struck me like a chill of reality. "And my parents are struggling too," he added, his tone desperate. "That's not my problem, Peter. You made your choices, and now you have to face the consequences," I responded, my voice resolute yet cold. "But Abigail, I have nothing left. Please, for old time's sake," he pleaded, his voice cracking with despair. A twinge of pity flickered within me, but it was swiftly extinguished by the vivid memory of his betrayal. "Old time's sake. Those times are long gone, Peter. You should have thought about the consequences before you decided to cheat and lie," I retorted, turning to leave. However, his next words halted me. "I'm sorry, Abigail. Truly, I am. I was a fool, and I ruined everything. Please help me." For a brief moment, I saw the man I once loved, vulnerable and filled with regret. Yet the pain he had caused was too profound, the betrayal too fresh. "I'm sorry, Peter, but I can't help you. You need to figure this out on your own," I said, my voice firm, signaling the end of our shared past. As I walked away, a profound sense of closure enveloped me. The journey had been fraught with betrayal and heartache, but it had steered me toward newfound strength and independence. Life moved forward. Vincent grew, his laughter and curiosity infusing our home with joy. The coffee shop thrived, transforming into a hub of warmth and community. I found solace in simple pleasures: the aroma of fresh coffee, the sound of Vincent's giggles, and the steadfast support of those who loved me. Peter and his parents faded into distant memories, their legacy a stark reminder of the consequences of betrayal. My experience taught me resilience and underscored the importance of standing up for myself. That evening, as I locked up the shop and gazed at the sky, its hues marking the end of another day, I smiled, holding Vincent's hand tightly. Our future was uncertain yet bright. Step by step, we were venturing into a new chapter of our lives, fortified by our past but not bound by it.